In 1925, a man walked into a hotel room with 6 of the wealthiest scrap metal dealers in Paris and sold them something that wasn't his to sell: the Eiffel Tower. This isn't a metaphor. He didn't sell tickets or rights or a stake in a company. He convinced grown, successful businessmen that the French government was secretly planning to tear down the Eiffel Tower, and he was the man quietly handling the sale. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how he pulled it off, and why what happened after might be even crazier than the scam itself. His name was Victor Lustig, and before this, he was already a career con artist, though a relatively minor one. Small-time swindles, forged documents, that kind of thing. But in 1925, he read a newspaper article that changed everything. The article mentioned, almost as a side note, that the Eiffel Tower was expensive to maintain, and that some officials had floated the idea of eventually tearing it down. Most people would read that and move on. Lustig read it and saw an opportunity nobody else would have dared to touch. He had fake government letterhead printed, official-looking documents identifying him as a senior official from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. Then he did something bold. He identified 6 of the top scrap metal dealers in Paris and sent each of them a private, confidential invitation to a meeting at the Hôtel de Crillon, one of the most prestigious hotels in the city. The kind of location that makes people trust you before you've said a single word. At the meeting, Lustig explained, in hushed, serious tones, that the government had quietly decided the Eiffel Tower had become too costly to maintain and too controversial to keep standing. The plan was to demolish it and sell the scrap metal. But the government wanted to avoid a public uproar, since Parisians loved the tower. So this would need to be handled discreetly, and he was the man authorized to accept private bids for the 7,000 tons of iron the demolition would produce. Think about what made this believable. It wasn't just the fake letterhead. It was the venue, the secrecy, the tone. Lustig gave these dealers the feeling that they were being let in on an exclusive, high-level government secret. And that feeling of being trusted with something confidential is exactly what made them stop asking obvious questions. He picked one dealer as the winning bidder. Then, privately, he told this dealer something extra: that as a government official, he wasn't paid nearly enough for handling deals like this, and he'd appreciate a little something on the side to make sure everything went smoothly. A bribe. And the dealer paid it, on top of the actual purchase price for a landmark that was never for sale in the first place. Lustig took the money and left Paris immediately, heading for Vienna. Here's the part of this story that's almost harder to believe than the scam itself. The dealer he tricked never went to the police. Not because he didn't realize he'd been conned. He figured it out. But the embarrassment was worse than the financial loss. Admitting publicly that you'd been fooled into buying the Eiffel Tower would destroy your credibility in the business world for good. Nobody would trust his judgment again. So he stayed silent, ate the loss, and told no one. Lustig realized this, and this is where the story stops being just a clever con and starts being genuinely audacious. He went back to Paris, and he ran the exact same scam again. New dealers, same fake government story, same hotel meeting, same confidential bidding process for a tower that still wasn't for sale. This time, it didn't work. The second dealer got suspicious and went to the police. Lustig barely escaped France, fleeing to the United States before he could be arrested. You'd think that would be the end of his story, but it wasn't even close. In America, Lustig kept running major cons for years, at one point reportedly scamming Al Capone himself in a fake investment scheme and somehow talking his way out of it without consequence. His downfall eventually came from counterfeiting US currency, running a sophisticated fake money operation that funded his lifestyle for years before he was finally caught. He was sentenced to 20 years and sent to Alcatraz, one of the most notorious prisons in American history, where he eventually died in 1947. So here's the actual takeaway. A man convinced multiple wealthy, experienced businessmen to buy a landmark that wasn't his, using nothing but forged letterhead, a nice hotel, and the psychological trick of making people feel like insiders on a secret. And when it worked, his first instinct wasn't to disappear forever. It was to do it again. This is the kind of story that sounds too outrageous to be true, and it's completely documented history. If stories like this, the ones that sound made up but genuinely happened, are what you're here for, there's more of this coming.